The wine glass hit the floor with a sound like a small bell breaking. Red spread across Tessa Lynn's cream sweater in a slow, deliberate bloom, and she stumbled backward into the sideboard, one hand flying to her chest. Claire. Her voice carried that particular pitch, hurt, disbelieving, calibrated for an audience. Why would you push me? The dining room went quiet. The Halversons, 2 houses down and mid-laugh about their grandson's soccer game, closed their mouths. Eleanor, at the head of the table, set down her fork with precision. Will, beside Claire, didn't move. Claire felt heat rise in her face. She'd been reaching for the water pitcher. Her arm had been extended. Yes, but they'd been on opposite sides of the table. I didn't. Tessa, come on. Linda Halverson was already reaching for a napkin. I'm sure it was an accident. It wasn't. Tessa's eyes glistened. The trembling lip, the stance of someone bracing for another blow. She was good at this. She pushed. I don't know why she hates me so much, but she did. Claire looked at Will. He wore the expression she knew too well, calculating how much damage control this would need. For 6 years, that look had always preceded a gentle deflection, a change of subject, a let's all calm down. Tonight, he sighed. It was a tired sound. Deep, resigned. The sigh of someone who's been waiting for the other shoe to drop so long he's forgotten what floor he's on. Tessa, he said, almost gentle. If you're going to frame my wife, pick a room without 6 cameras and my mother holding the remote. The silence changed. It wasn't the polite hush of a dinner party interrupted. It was the silence of people realizing they were watching something they shouldn't. Eleanor reached beside her chair and lifted the tablet on her lap, the one connected to the house security system. She turned the screen toward the 6 camera feeds showed the dining room from every angle, timestamps glowing in each. Got it all, Ellen said. She didn't sound. She sounded rude, including the part where you tilted your own. Tessa's face did something complicated. The hurt expression didn't fall so much as freeze, then slide into something colder. She looked at Will, then Eleanor, there, and for a moment Claire saw it, the thing under all the performance. Not sadness, not anger, something older and fixed, like a door locked long ago whose handle someone had just done. You set me up, Tessa said. No trembling. We defended you, Will said. The Halversons suddenly found their plates sitting. Bob cleared his throat and suggested everyone air. Linda stood, napkin in hand, unsure what it. Tessa, stay. She gripped her purse. She hadn't even sat down for dinner. She'd been standing, hovering, waiting for her moment, and walked. She didn't look back. In the hallway, just before the shut, Claire heard her say something quiet. Yes. Door closed. Room exhaled. Will covered Claire's own. His palm was warm, a little shaky. You okay? Claire nodded. She wasn't. She was staring at the chair then. On the seat, half hidden under Linda's handed napkin. Its screen had lit up notification. From where she sat, Claire view. The contact was listed as J. B as a go. They won't see it coming. Claire didn't sleep. The phone sat on the kitchen counter like a live thing, screen dark now, but she kept glancing at it as if it might ring. At 7, Will came down in sweatpants, hair sticking up on one side. He poured coffee and looked at the phone the way you'd look at a rattlesnake on your patio. We should take it to her, he said. And the footage. Show her we're not what? Claire's voice came out sharper than she intended. Not going to be pushed around? She already knows that. She called our bluff last night and lost. Will didn't answer. He stirred his coffee slowly, and Claire watched the muscle in his jaw work. She knew that look. He was thinking about Tessa the way you think about a cavity. Something you've been ignoring because dealing with it seems worse than the pain. She reached for her phone to text Dana. But Dana called first. I was going to call you. Tessa Lind called me last night. Sobbed. Said you and Will ganged up on her at dinner, that you've been harassing her for months. Claire's hand tightened. She what? Claire, I didn't believe her. Obvious. But she called Linda Halverson too. And the pastor's wife. I think she's been calling everyone. The kitchen tilted. Claire sat. She called my... Not that I know of. But I have to... She hung up and opened her work. There it was, flagged urgent, sent at 11:47 p.m. from an address she didn't recognize. The subject line. Concern about Claire Bennett's... The body was short. Anonymous. It suggested Claire might be using her position at the non-profit to settle personal disputes, and recommended an internal... Her hands were... She forwarded it to her personal account and deleted it from her work inbox. Not because she was in it, because she needed time to think before her boss. Will was gone when she... A note on her, returning... She wanted to call him, to tell him not to alone, but she already knew he wouldn't. This. Went quiet, alone, Tried to fix things by himself, because asking for help meant admitting. Will found Tessa at the Starbucks on Saw Road, sitting by the window with a latte she hadn't touched. She looked composed, hair washed and straight. No trace of the woman who'd spoken through clenched teeth in their hallway 12 hours. "You let alone," Will said, setting a table. Tessa did it. She reached into her bag and pulled out a photograph, sliding it. It was old, faded at the edges, taken on a display camera. Two teenagers at a lake, arms around each other, sun in their eyes. Will recognized himself at 17. Tessa, 16, leaning into him like, "Your dad's died," Tessa said quietly. "You told me I was the only who got it. The only person who didn't look at you like. You said we'd all have each other. And then you met her. I was cracked. Didn't. I was nothing. Tessa, that years ago. Some prom expire." He left without another word. The photograph on the table. When he got home, Claire was on the couch with him. She asked how it went. She could see his face, the way he her eyes, the way he kept rubbing it. Claire at the table, Will at the counter, the television filling the silence with. At 9, her phone buzzed. Phone number. She opened the message. It was a photograph. Her, dining room last night, reaching for the water pitcher. Angle was wrong. Too high, too close, from a position none of their six occupied. Beneath it, a sign of text. Everything. Monday morning, Claire called in sick, not because she was sick, but because she couldn't face her office with that anonymous email sitting in her boss's inbox, unread like a landmine. Instead, she drove to Marcus's office in Grandview Heights. Her brother-in-law's law firm occupied the second floor of a renovated brick building, and the receptionist, 22, efficient, wearing a blazer that cost more than Claire's car payment, looked up and smiled. "He's expecting you." Marcus was on the phone when she walked in. He waved her into a chair and finished the call with a brisk, "Send it over." At 34, he was the kind of lawyer who'd been born wearing a tie. His office smelled like coffee and leather, and the particular cleanliness of someone who had never once eaten lunch at his desk. Claire told him everything. The wine, the cameras, the phone, the anonymous email, the photograph from an angle that didn't exist in her house. She didn't cry. She'd practiced not crying in the car. When she finished, Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he opened a new document and started typing. "First," he said, "we document. Every call, every text, every email. Screenshots, timestamps, everything. Second, I draft a cease and desist. It won't stop her, but it creates a record. Third," he looked up, "you need to stop reacting and start controlling the narrative. Right now, she's telling her version first. You need to tell yours. To who? To the people who are, not the whole community. The people whose opinion you actually care about. Send them the footage. Let them see what." Claire thought about it. It felt sharing video of a family dinner, even with a. But then she thought about the email to her, about Linda Halverson's face when called, about the photograph from an angle that didn't exist in. Okay. That afternoon, Eleanor called. She'd been on the phone with Reeves. Claire could hear the tightness. "Your Aunt Karen thinks I'm being unreasonable. Says I should let the girl out. As if Tessa is some girl she met at a PT. Eleanor. I told her if she took Tessa's side, she could find another family thing. Mom, you've too. And I'm not done. I've been keeping notes, Claire. For a while now. You'll see." Claire didn't ask what notes. By Wednesday, Claire had sent the dining room footage to people. Dana, her college roommate in Chicago, her boss, with a full explanation. She didn't send it to Parsons. Linda had already called Dana to say she was so sorry for the misunderstanding, which Claire. "I've picked a side, but I'm too so. Wednesday church." Claire almost didn't go. All said they should, that not going would look like guilt. So they went, sat in the usual pew, and smiled at people who smiled back with the careful neutrality of neighbors who'd read a group chat and weren't there. She sat in the back, alone, and during the greeting portion of the service, her head down, and when someone asked if she was okay, prayer. "I've been going through some." By the time the service ended, 3 different Wessa. None. In the parking lot, Will reached for Claire's hand. She let him take it. That night, called. His had that edge, the one he used when he'd found something he hadn't. "Claire, I ran main searches. Tessa Lind registered ClaireBennett.com 3 months ago. June 14th, Claire's stomach dropped. 3 months ago. Before the dinner. Before the wine. Before any of this. She's been planning this, Marcus said. For a long time. Thursday morning, Claire cornered Will at the kitchen counter before he could leave for work. What happened at Starbucks? Will zipped his laptop bag. I told you. I returned her phone. You told me you returned her phone. You didn't tell me what she said. He stopped. The zipper was halfway. She said what she always says. That I owe her. That we have history. He shrugged, but it was too casual. The way people shrug when they're performing indifference. It's nothing, Claire. She's just what? Just got our neighbors to stop talking to me? Just emailed my boss? Just sent me a photo taken from a camera that isn't in our house? Her voice was rising, and she hated that it was rising. She wanted to be cold and rational the way Marcus was. Instead, she sounded like what she was. A woman whose life was being dismantled one phone call at a time. Will's face softened. I know this is... But I can handle her. I've known her since we were kids. I know how... You don't get to handle... Claire's voice. You don't get to have private meetings with her and then come home and tell me it's... Not... He opened his mouth, then closed it. The zipper finished its journey with a sound like a verdict. I have to go to work. Claire stood in the kitchen and listened to his truck pull out of the way. And this is what it feels like, when the person on your side starts feeling like someone you have to... She called Dana. Dana picked up on the 4th ring, which was unusual. Dana usually answered before... Hey, I'm kind of... You know that. What's going on? A pause. Tessa called again. Last night, she said Will has been reaching out to her, privately, that they've been talking. Claire's hand went cold. What? I didn't believe her. But then Will called me. Asked me not to tell. Said he didn't. Dana's voice careful. The way you talk when you're choosing which version of the truth. Claire, I think you knew him. Claire didn't remember. She was standing in the break room. Someone was micing fish, and the smell was making her nauseous. I was thinking, Will called Dana back. Manage me. She had to work early. Told her boss he had a migraine, which wasn't in day. The driveway, Will's truck home. He was in the garage on a call, back to her, voice low. She could the words, but she'd hear the tone, soothing, aleatory. The tone he used when he was trying to make someone... She got in his truck to grab the water bottle she... The center console was sticky with old coffee. She moved a napkin, and under the seat. She picked it up. Steakhouse. Date, 14th. Their 6th anniversary. Will had told her he was weak. A regional sales conference. He'd called her from a hotel, he'd said. Sent flowers with a card that read, the rest dinners. 2 glasses of wine. A total of $107. Date, 18th. The same day Marcus said Tessa had registered at .com. Receipt over. On the back, in Will's handwriting, single word, Mara. Claire put the receipt on the kitchen table and waited. Will came in from the garage, saw it, and his shoulders did something she'd never seen them do before. They collapsed. Not hunched, not tense, just fell. Like a structure that had been holding weight for a long time, and finally couldn't. Who is Mara? Claire asked. Will sat down. He didn't try to deny it. He didn't try to explain it away. He just sat there, hands folded, staring at the receipt like it was a verdict. Tessa's mom, he said. Mara Lind. She died in August. Pancreatic cancer. The room went quiet. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere a dog barked 3 houses down. June 14th, Will said. She called me. Said she wanted to talk. She didn't have much time. I drove down to Columbus. She was in a hospice facility by then. But she checked herself out for an afternoon. Said she wanted a real meal. He paused. Swallowed. She asked me to promise her something. To look after Tessa. Said Tessa didn't have anyone else. That her dad was gone. That she'd pushed away all her friends. That I was the only person who'd never left. Claire's voice was flat. And you promised. I promised a dying woman, Claire. You promised a dying woman on our anniversary. And then you didn't tell me. For 3 months, I was going to. He stopped. I didn't know. I knew you'd want me to cut her off, and I didn't. Not after. Claire stood up. She was doing something. She was thinking, clearly and coldly, about what. It meant every time she'd asked Will to set a boundary with her, he'd been carrying a deathbed. It meant every time he'd said, I'll handle it, he'd lying. Not maliciously, but lying. It meant knew. Tessa knew about the promise, and she'd been using it like... She's been you, Claire said. Of us. Let her. Because you... Will you. The next morning, Dana texted a link with message. URL, clairebennett.com. Claire opened it on top. The site was clean, professional. White background, font, a photograph of Tessa looking tired. The headline read, "My Story, Surviving Years." Fabricated text message screenshots. Claire's name attached to messages she never sent, calling Tessa names. Edited audio clips. Claire's voice, cut and rearranged to a timeline dating 2 years, cataloging incidents Claire didn't recognize. Donation button. A contact form for others did. By noon, the link was in the neighborhood group. By 1, on Nextdoor. By 2, her boss on the phone. "Claire, I'm sorry. The board is asking questions. We need to put you on administrative leave. Paid. Pending." Claire sat on the edge of the bed and listened. The website counter in the corner of her screen ticked past 4 letters. She thought Mara Lind, Donna Hospice, asking Amanda. She thought about promises made in good faith and wept from them. She thought about the wine on the living room floor, the cameras, the phone, the photograph from an angle exist. Thought, Tessa didn't just play 3 months. She'd been life. The weekend stretched out like a hospital waiting room. Will left for Cleveland early Saturday. Real Cleveland. Real sales conference. His flight confirmation sitting open on Claire's browser because she'd checked it 3 times. The house was too quiet without him. Not peaceful quiet. The kind of quiet where you notice every sound the neighborhood makes when it's decided not to talk to you. Claire walked to the grocery store Saturday afternoon. Linda Halverson was in the cereal aisle. She saw Claire, looked at her shoes, and turned down the next aisle without a word. At home, Claire called Dana. Voicemail. She called the pastor. He answered, but his voice had that careful warmth, the kind you use with someone you're praying for, but not inviting to dinner. "Claire, I think you and Tessa both need time to..." She fabricated evidence, Ray. She made a website. "I know. I've seen it, but I've also seen her. She's hurting, Claire. We're called to..." Claire hung up. She sat on the kitchen floor and stared at the baseboard for a long time. Sunday morning, Eleanor used her key. She didn't knock. She just walked in, carrying a canvas and wearing the expression of someone who has rehearsed a conversation in the car for 40 minutes. She set the tote on the table and pulled out a manila folder, thick with paper. "I owe you something," Eleanor said. She didn't. She stood by the table, hands on the back of a chair, like she might need to leave quick. "When Will was in college, I liked Tessa. I thought she was good. Funny, good faith. Her mother and I were friends. I encouraged. When they broke up, I was disappointed," Claire said. "Then you came along. And at first I told myself she was hurt. But 2 years ago, at the 4th of July, she told me you'd said something to her. Something. I even said something. And then I found out..." Eleanor's voice cracked, just barely. "I did you. And I'd been wrong about her, and I didn't want it. So I started watching and writing." She pushed the folder across the table. Claire opened it. Dated entries in Eleanor's precise nurse's handwriting. March 3. Tessa told Dana Claire wasn't Will. May 20. Tessa posted a photo of herself at our house on Instagram, tagged Will, didn't care. November 23. Tessa cried to Pastor Ray about family conflict. And then, further back, names no. Sarah Chen, Eleanor said. "Will date for you." Tessa, the same thing. Spread rumors. Sarah finally broke up with Will because she didn't handle it. And before, Heather. Same pattern. Claire looked up. As before, twice before. That I know of. Claire threw the folder. Pattern after pattern. The victim performance, the isolation, the slow build-up to a public confrontation. Wasn't improvising. Finding a method. At the bottom of the folder, a single sheet of paper with a name and address. Paulson. Tessa's roommate 2019-2023. Moved to Indianapolis. Since. Jenna lived with her for 4 years, Eleanor said. "If anyone knows what Tessa is like, it's her. I tried to find her. She's not on social media. Changed her number. But I found an address. An old would still be good." Claire picked up the paper. Jenna Paulson, Indianapolis Drive. She thought about the phone on the first night. "The message from J Plan B is a go. They won't see it coming, J. Eleanor," Claire said slowly. "Ever go by a nickname?" Eleanor frowned. "I think her. Why?" Claire didn't answer. She was already calculating how she could get to Indianapolis. Claire left at 6 Monday morning. She left a note on the kitchen counter for Will. "Gone to find someone. Back tonight. Don't call." The drive to Indianapolis was 4 hours of flat Ohio highway, and then flat Indiana highway, the kind of drive where you think too much. She thought about the folder on the passenger seat, Eleanor's precise handwriting, The names Sarah, Chen, and Heather, and what it meant that she was the third woman Tessa had done this to. She thought about the letter J and whether she was driving toward a witness or an accomplice. Jenna Paulson lived in a second-floor apartment in a complex off Keystone Avenue, the kind of place with beige siding and a pool, already closed for the season. Claire climbed the stairs, knocked, and heard footsteps behind the door. It opened 3 inches. A woman in her early 30s looked out. Brown hair pulled back, no makeup, wearing an Ohio State sweatshirt that looked like it belonged to someone else. "Can I help you?" "Claire Bennett. I'm married to Will Bennett. I think you know Tessa Lynn." The door started to close. Claire put her hand against it. "Please. I'm not here to fight. I'm here because she's destroying my life. And I think you might be the only person who can help me stop her." Jenna studied her for a long moment. Then she opened the door wider and stepped. The apartment was sparse. A couch, a TV, a stack of moving boxes in the corner that hadn't been unpacked. Jenna sat on the couch and gestured for Claire to take the arm. "I knew you'd come eventually," Jenna said. "Or someone. Tessa always caught. She just takes people down with her." Claire said. It wasn't a question. Jenna closed. "Yeah, The confession came out in pieces, like Jenna had been carrying it too long and couldn't hold it. She'd been Tessa's roommate for 4 years. They'd been. When Tessa reached out in March, said she needed help with a project, Tessa told her Claire was abusive, that she needed evidence to protect. Jenna helped build a website, helped plant a small camera in the house. Tessa had hidden it in a USB charger in the dining room during a visit. Jenna accessed the feed. That was the photograph, the angle that missed. Believed her, Jenna said. Her voice small. She didn't sing, cried. She showed me things, photos. I thought I was helping a friend escape an abusive marriage. And then I saw the real footage. I saw what actually happened. And I realized she'd too. Jenna reached under the couch and pulled out a USB chain. I kept everything. The original files before she edited them. The chat she fabricated. Recordings of her talk about her plans. She used to talk to herself when she thought no one was listening, or maybe she thought I was too stunned. I recorded her. 3 of recordings. Claire stared at the drive. You come forward. Because I helped her. Because if this comes out, I'm complicit. I helped build that website. Spy on you. Jenna's hands were shaking. I moved here to get away. I thought if I disappeared it would but it didn't. It just kept going. She set the USB drive cable between them. She's planning an event. Friday night at Dublin Community Center. She called it a story sharing. She's invited everyone. The neighborhood, the church, even a dispatch. She's going to tell her version, room full of people. And by the end of the night, Claire picked up the USB drive. It was warm from being under the couch, from Jenna's hand. If you use, Jenna said, everything comes out. The website, the camera, the recording, including what I did. There's us. Fingers around. No. That's the point. Claire got home at 9 Monday night. Will was in the kitchen, lights off, sitting at the table with a beer he hadn't opened. She put the USB drive on the table between them. Jenna Paulson, she said. She was Tessa's roommate. She's Jay. She helped Tessa build the website. She helped plant a camera in this house. Will's face went gray. In our house? April. She hid it in a USB charger. In the dining room. Will stood and walked to the dining room. Claire followed. He turned slowly, looking at every outlet, every device, like seeing the room for the first time. Claire pointed to the charger behind the hutch. Small, black, innocuous. Will pulled it out of the wall and held it like it was on fire. 5 months, he said. She's been watching us for 5 months. They sat back at the table and Claire plugged the drive into her laptop. The first recording was from April. Tessa's voice, clear and calm, talking to herself in what sounded like a car. If I do this right, she'll leave. She'll have to. No one stays when the whole town thinks you're crazy. Will turned it off. He couldn't listen to. Tuesday, Marcus got the drive. He called Claire at 11, his voice tight with the particular excitement of a lawyer who's just found the smoking. This is good. The original files prove fabrication. The recordings prove premeditation. We send a cease and desist for the website day. And Claire, you need to be at that event. You don't just tell people she's lying. You show them. You play the recordings. Then you'll have a bigger. That afternoon, Will posted in the neighborhood Facebook group. He linked the dining room camera footage, wrote 3 sentences about Tessa's fabricated site, and asked people to reserve judgment until. Comments split immediately. Some said they'd had doubts about Tessa for years. Others called Will a bully protecting his abuse. Dinner, 2 of Will's biggest clients had called to end their. Both were friends of the Lind family. Dana I saw a post. I'm sorry I didn't call you back. I was an idiot. Can we talk? Claire did back. Friday. After Wednesday morning, Tessa played her card. An email went out to the community group from the thread. The truth about why Claire Bennett is trying. Tessa wrote that she was pregnant. That the father Bennett. That Claire had known for months and had been punished. The website. The accusations. Harassment. All of it was a jealous wife's campaign to destroy the woman carrying her. By noon, the neighbor. People who'd believed now hedging. The pastor called Will and asked if there was any truth to this. Linda Halverson posted a prayer for the baby. Marcus Claire at 2. I'm filing for a records order. If she's lying, if there's no pregnancy or doesn't will, she's looking at defamation, intentional infliction, maybe even perjury if she's. But Claire, what? She's telling the truth? This changes everything. A child thing. Claire looked at Will across the kitchen. He's holding his phone, reading the email, his face a mask of something between. Will, she said quietly, is there any chance? He looked up. His eyes wounded. The way they get when he's been accused of something he can't believe him of. No, he said. Claire, there is no. But Claire was already thinking about the recorded USB drive. Months of Tessa talking. Maybe, just maybe, about this too. The Dublin Community Center smelled like old carpet and microwave popcorn. 45 folding chairs had been set up in the main meeting room, and by 7 o'clock, all but a few were filled. Claire recognized faces from the neighborhood, from church, from the grocery store. Linda Halverson sat in the second row. The pastor was near the back. Even the reporter from the Dispatch had shown up, notebook in hand. Tessa stood at the front beside a projector screen. She wore a soft gray sweater that accentuated the slight curve of her stomach. 12 weeks, she'd said. Her hair was down, makeup minimal. She looked fragile. She looked like someone who had gathered the courage to speak her truth. She began softly. Talked about growing up with Will, losing her father, Mara's illness. Talked about feeling like family, then feeling replaced. She showed the fabricated text messages on the screen. Claire's name. Cruel words Claire had never typed. Played the edited audio. Then she touched her stomach and said, "This baby is why I'm here tonight." I couldn't stay silent anymore. The room was with her. Claire could feel the collective intake of the sympathetic murmur, the way Linda Halverson dabbed at her eye. At 7:15, the door at the back opened. Claire walked in first. Will behind her, Marcus behind him, carrying a speaker and a laptop. The room went quiet, the way a room goes quiet when the person everyone's been talking about walks. Tessa's smile faltered. This is it's a public community. Marcus, we have every right to. Claire walked to the. She didn't look at the. She looked at. I'm not going to argue you, Claire said. Her voice she'd practiced it in the. I'm just going to let you talk. She nodded. He plugged in the speaker. The first recording filled. Tessa's voice, clear and unemotional, from a car. If I do this right. No one stays when the whole town thinks you're. A murmur went through. Tessa's face went white. Claire played one. Tessa in her apartment talking. The tech are easy. I just need her phone number and a fake account. The audio can cut. People believe what they. Then the one Claire had found at Ting. The one that made her sit straight. Tessa's voice low, Brit. And if it all's wrong, the baby, I'll say it's his. Men can't resist a baby. They'll guilty you. The room went now. No murmurs. No sympathetic breaths. Just the hum of the projector and the sound of 45 people realizing. The back end again. Jenna walked in, but determined. Claire. The website, Jenna said, her voice shaking but clear. I planted the in their house. She told me it was abusive. She lied. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Tessa looked at the room, at Linda Halverson, whose mouth was open, at the pastor, shaking his head, at the reporter, writing fast. Something in her broke. Not the performance, she asked performances. The real thing, raw and ugly, came out in a scream. I just wanted him to see me, she shrieked. I was there for him. I was there when his dad died. She just showed up and took everything! She was crying now, real tears. The carefully constructed victim mask shattered on the floor. The baby isn't real. None of it is real. But it should have been. It should have been. Will stood up. He didn't shout. He didn't gesture. He just looked at Tessa with an anger had never seen. Anger, not pity, but the quiet finality of someone closing a door he'd kept for years. He said, I am sorry for your loss. I am sorry for your pain, but I will never speak to you again. Do not contact me. Do not contact my wife. Do not come my family. We're done. He took. They walked out. In the parking lot, it was cold and sharp. Claire was hard, hands shaking. Will squeezed her hand or slammed behind them. Tar, composed now. Tears on. Her face almost serene. Think you won? Said. Claire turned. Didn't I? Tessa smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. You have no idea I did, she said. Then she got in her car and drove away. The reporter's story ran Sunday morning. The headline was Restrained. Dublin woman accused of fabricating harassment campaign. The article was careful, quoting sources close to the situation and noting allegations remained under review. But the video clip from the community center, Tessa's voice on the recording, Tessa screaming that the baby wasn't real, was already everywhere. By Monday, Tessa was gone. Marcus called with the news. Her apartment was vacated. Lind Events LLC had been administratively dissolved 2 weeks earlier. Her phone was disconnected. No forwarding address. The medical records order he'd filed would go nowhere without a defendant to serve. She planned the exit too, Marcus said. Probably had it ready for months. If the event went her way, she stays. If not, she disappears. Claire thought about Tessa in the parking lot, calm and serene. You have no idea what else I did. She'd been saying goodbye. The consequences took longer than the victory. Claire's employer completed its internal review in late October. She was cleared, fully, formally, with a letter in her file. But when they offered her job back, she said no. 6 weeks of watching her reputation be debated in a boardroom had changed something. She took a position with a smaller organization, one where she knew everyone by name, and the board didn't need an investigation to trust. Will lost those 2 clients permanently. A third drifted away. He didn't complain. He started picking up new accounts, smaller companies, people who'd seen the story and respected how he'd stood by his. Turns out integrity is a sales pitch, he said one night, and almost. Dana came. Not all at once. First a coffee, then a lunch, then a Saturday assembling IKEA furniture for Claire's new office. They didn't talk about the weeks Dana didn't. They didn't. The friendship was different now, thinner in some places and stronger in others. The way things are after they've been broken and put back. Jenna pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor, unlawful surveillance. Probation, community service. She called Claire once after seeing, just to say thank you for not asking the judge to throw the. I'm moving to Portland, said. Claire told good luck. Sarah Chen reached out. She'd seen her. Over the phone, she told Claire about her own 2 years, the rumors, the isolation, the way she'd finally left Will because it felt like the only way to make. She apologized for not speaking sooner. Claire told her there was nothing to apologize. Eleanor came. The dining room table was set for 6. Claire, Will, Eleanor, Marcus, Dana, and Dana's new. Poured. The turkey was slightly overcooked, the way it always was. Eleanor sat at the head of the table, and halfway the meal, her hand drifted toward the tablet chair, the one connected to the security system, the one she'd held at night. It up, looked at it, then laughed, a short sound, and old habit. Claire looked at the empty table, the chair where Tessa had first night, the wine glass shattering, the room freezing. No cameras needed now, no remote, no proof to gather. The truth had all done its work, and it was messier than proof, and slower. Will's. To family, he said. Claire raised hers. Didn't say anything. She just looked at the around her table. Her mother-in-law, who'd finally stopped being wrong. Mother-in-law, who'd fought for her when she couldn't fight for herself. Friend who'd come back. Her husband, who'd finally closed a door that should have to go. She thought about somewhere, starting over in a new town with a new story. Thought about the pattern, and how it would probably happen again to someone else. Because people don't change, locate. About herself, changed. That being reasonable wasn't the same as being safe. That love sometimes meant saying we're done, instead of let's talk about it. That the truth didn't free exactly. It just gave you something solid to stand on while you fixed. Wine. To fam echoed. Outside, the November rattled the windows. Inside, the table was warm, loud, and full.